Hello, salutations, greetings, la bien. We return, as always, to another terrific installment in Seablockage, with restrictions on belts and power generation, otherwise identified as belts only. On today's glorious and inglorious mantle of progression, actual progression, that'll lead to the establishment of subscription. To translate that mix of what I assure you to be English, we've got a lot on today's docket. The first is not related to belts only, but rather is related to my web novel. The prologue is out, for you to read at your pleasure or leisure. Find the Wattpad and Ream links in the link tree, in the description, as always. If you like and want to support the show, there and here, a Patreon also exists, only $1 or $3 every month. Credits to those who donate, and of course, bragging rights that you help fund a creative, worth more than any amount of money you could ever gain. Okay, maybe not, but I'm trying here. Alright, enough grinding to sharpen, back to the high-octane beltage. Starting from the front, we have the next stage of ore metallurgy, the first incarnation, or rather beta, of the idea, electrolyzers 120, all for that lovely slag product, and a boatload of oxygen and hydrogen, the rates 45 slag per second. That's enough for at least 1.5 seconds of ore of our choice. Now that may sound small, but we have to multiply that by 60 because 60 seconds makes a minute. With that we end up with about 90 per minute. Another 60 and that's 5,400 per hour. I spend about 7-8 hours recording this, most of which is AFK, and that gives us a prosperous 43,200 ore. A significant improvement. Hopefully I didn't misspeak. And it's only going to get better and more mathy, because the early game is now here. That's right, no joke, not a bit, we are in the early game actually, this time. And what is our objective? Zinc and oil processing. Not the foundation, but rather the scant droppings. First, however, the chores before the lunch. The establishment of the heart of ore metallurgy, 0.6, and then the subsequent realization that pressure mechanics within Factorio 1.0 are witchcraft and slumping one's shoulders in defeat. The solution, of course, is to have individual pumps for each stack. That meaning each pipe being locked off from each other. However, I am lazy, and it'll do for now. Next up, the tree. Big, with leaves and primarily used for simplistic circuit board production, we need more of it, and I, for once, start doing the math and plotting out what we will need to make a semi-functional system. The 0.3 version of a tree farm, I cannot be bothered to come up with an amusing name for it. Seriously, what joke is there in a tree? It takes a real hard hit to get through that hard bark. Then a detour for violence, Forrest getting his monthly dosage of acid burns of the first, second, and third, and in some cases fourth degree. A real go-getter he is. And then a minor detour with a solution. Spoiler, it didn't work, but it pumped up my morale. Remember what I said in the previous video about a design being potentially tileable, or in theory, being tileable? Well, we shall see that later in effect, but this arrangement for the burner heat sources, in specific the fueling by inserter versions, confusing, I know. Whoever guesses the amount of commas in my script gets a pin and bragging rights in the comments. This is the most effective setup for the time being. 12 burners. It's beautiful. Next up on the butchery block, ammonia, for research and production of fertilizer. Though you might ask, do we not already have that? No, we have compost, which you might think, surely this is fertilizer, right? Wrong. What we need is terribly chemically enhanced stuff, not the natural decay of nature. For this, the ammonia recipe will be our pipeline to that goal. Remember this, I am certain the issue of ammonia will not crop up, and I shall not forget this recipe exists for multiple hours. Such a skill issue I would not have. What was I on about? Oh right, more algae farms, because the power infrastructure needs to be a tiny bit more solid and without any limbless reptiles to lurk within the murky green waters, and a small chore to replace some tier 1 buildings, with tier 2s. But how will we get the science? With more science and research. The full spectrum's atomic lab is mine, and with it, the potential for blue science. Of course, in the midst of that, I research barreling and its sister of gas barreling. Of course, regular barreling comes first as I crash face first into the sheer depravity of the recipe block. I mean, look at this. Actually look at this, and it needs a specific building in order to perform the function of barreling itself. Talk about inflation that'd get a British man howling like a coyote. Though, my timing is unfortunate, as expansion is also here. That's 2 free spaces. Terrible, terrible. But we march on. Though now our quest for zinc and other metals, but mostly zinc, actually no, we need aluminium, lead, bronze, silicon, a lot in hindsight, but our key to that lock? Frothing flotation. Basically just a different type of washing and purifying the ore. Of course this presents issues of geodes. The sulfuric wastewater is easy and necessary to keep the system in a feeding loop, but the geodes are annoying. Another annoying thing is the different types of wastewater we get. Chloric and fluoric wastewater, which both gives us a different waste product in the form of fluoride and nitrate. We have to use them later, make no mistake, but unfortunately for now, we are locked with the recipes somewhat. We can get rid of the nitrate easily, or, wash the wastewater, but let me groan and moan and boost my morale. But back to the list of chores. Washing plants. Another industrial spill. If another happens, I'll have to start counting them all. What you didn't see, was me making the second tier washers, the last in that building tier, which sucks, but I understand, it's a balance choice. However, spam is always going to break balance, sadly. Key will hold the same plan for us to spam the washing plants. An excellent move. All of that additional washing of liquids for 3.75 landfill a second, which is 225 landfill per minute, and further that is 13,500 every hour. Significant improvements all around. And now, the complete forestry package, or to be blunt, growing trees at a moderate pace. The setup itself is messy, ugly, it doesn't maintain itself, and relies on cutting down the trees under production. Under-producing trees to cut, I mean. That meaning I need to process them slower so it buffers up. But, as the sailors say, any port in a storm. 3 to 8. The math dictates 12 to 16 arboretums, but if I only did math, I'd be stuck in the spreadsheet. The assembly for cutting, the saws for chopping, and boom, automated wood, without the use of hand feeding. For now, I still need to make the saws on occasion, but they do deplete over time. And another good decision, for the time being, running a charcoal belt for the filtration plants we have here, to keep the system running for the time being. Steel of ingot, coiled so within your molten throne, spooled together by careful hands, cut beams of... Damn it, I lost the rhythm. Or the alliteration. My grasp on the lexicon is dwindling, whatever, our steel products are now doubled. Very, very good. Now, a minor detour to gaze and think about zinc processing, because thoughts are much more important than praxis. They are vital to doing the thing. Now, zinc obviously needs the ore, shocker on that. Oxygen, alright, chemical enhancements and, molten lead? Wait, molten lead. Oh, it spits out a byproduct of lead ingots and sulfur dioxide gas? Well, this'll be troublesome to figure out later. A small dip to think about wood. Glorious wood. The best building block to the Midwest, varnished nice and golden brown. Like and subscribe if you appreciate nature and the cool trees therein. Alright, enough horsing around. The circuit boards must be constructed and shaped, and done. This simplicity, the joy of just a few buildings. I must savor it. It will vanish soon. So anyways, I started mass production, and then another belt run all the way to the handcraft mall. More disaster storage space than legitimate setup, but that's the engineer's dilemma. Functional but not pretty, but I so desperately want it to be. The reason the belt is here is for carbon cubes. And of course, I am eating sand on my comments about the electric boiler, is what I would say, because I still maintain my agenda about it not being useful. Exception use cases do not count. I could have let a steam pipe over from the power generation and got away with it, but I chose not to fool you into thinking that the boiler was actually good. Devious, scandalous, outright treacherous, and heretical. However, I will cede the ground that the modeling work is nice. It does look pretty. Force. Fine. Next video I will count the industrial spill incidents, seeing as this is a consistent enough problem for one of high intelligence, like you. Thankfully, that spillage was cleaned easily. And now, onto research. Plastics, advanced electronics, uni-lived atomic manipulator, or blue science for the normal-speaking people. Grinding, which has no relation to the tool of the same name. Butchery 1. Rocket boosters 1. Advanced manganese smelting 2. Though that shopping list is short, how about we purchase a little more? The electronics assembly machine, 2. Fish refugium, 2. Explosives, Automation 3. Fluid canister processing. Steel filtering furnace. Plastic text plates, bottled gas processing, cathodes, turrets 2, batteries, robotics, construction robotics, and advanced bronze smelting 2. Look at that, more jerry cans of gas bottles. If I'm smart, I'll never have to use any of these recipes. But still, good lord, the amount of bottling and then unbottling, so many fluids and gases. Well, I still have so much money left over, so that's right, even more research. Physical projectile damage 1, weapon shooting speed 2, cooling solutions, modular roboports 1, worker robot speed 1, logistics robots, but not for the reason you might think, electric energy accumulators, which is just a fancy way of saying big battery. Though a little gift for this kitsu, modular armor, portable solar panels, exoskeletons, the small personal battery, lasers, personal roboports, and the subsequent modules for them, which is only Tier 1, and lastly, some splitters. For chores. I wonder what devious scheme I have cooked up. Now, the funniest thing about installing the 1.0 client without Steam is that all my achievements are reset, so I get the regular Factorio achievements when the conditions are met. Incredible. Just incredible. I have this achievement from like my early first playthrough. Now, to expand upon the disposing of geodes, as you know, a geode contains crystals or structures relating to it. These crystals need to be either crushed or melted down wholesale with sulfuric acid, but then a snag occurs. We can filter them for more mineral sludge or crystal seedlings. Both give sulfuric wastewater, enough to sustain a loop, but the seedlings themselves are interesting because it is required for the production of modules. Modules being small Q additions to buildings to help them perform better. Efficiency for green, red for productivity, and blue for speed. I can also use the crystals to make crystalline saw blades, but I need to do the research first and, of course, have an entire production line to even consider that advancement. We also need crystals for breeding insectoid life forms. No, I have no idea how that worked, but if they want the fancy decorated love dome, we make it. But for now, it is just another waste product that in future will be a wanted product. Waiter, more waste products for our dear Ford. He is simply insatiable with his appetite. Look at how excited he is. He is buzzing with life. Steel gears, and then a suboptimal move in harvesting these desert gardens for plant samples. See, I only wanted the samples, these green tubes. Unfortunately, I thought I was going to use the desert seed recipes. I'm not, for now, so this will be sent me back because I selected the wrong recipe. Never underestimate sheer stupidity. Dilly-dallying aside, time to set up liquefying of products, specifically slag and a slurry. And this, my dear listeners, is the area we have to work with. A nice, large, open expanse. We will use this to crawl towards our next goal of puffers and fishing. Oil too, but you know, farming is the funnier choice for all this work. Also, a feature Pipe Visualizer has is by pressing H. It'll only show the pipe network of one connection. Despite using this mod consistently, I never knew this. Yes, that also goes for the calculator on the top left corner of the screen. Rest assured, going forward, I might start using both. However, no guarantees. Regardless of my inability to use quality of life features and imitate Sisyphus for no reason than it amusing me, the overall input of the entire filtering stack is 1-to-1, so 45 turns into 450 slag slurry and then 450 mineral sludge, and bing bang boom! It's done, and ready to drink up. Somewhat. I still need to place the inserters, but the piping is complete. Alright, there we go. Now, it is complete. Now, the next part of the plan, or beginnings of, plastic, I need better pipes. Ignore the fact that making the pipes out of plastic and using them to transport molten metals and a varying degree of different acids might degrade them quickly. Such things are no match for a good spray coating, and ignoring the problem. Now, to get plastic, we have, of course, oil processing, but that's too easy, and I want byproducts to keep in line with my complaining streak. So, the solution? Swamp trees. Yes, trees from the swamp, which are rich in bioplastic. Mix that with a bit of acetone gas and we'll get liquid plastic. Use that liquid and we can assemble them into plastic bars, which, in turn, can be used to make plastic pipes. Look at the belts be fed by full filters. It really is one of the few best things in Factorio, seeing everything just work for a moment. Now for the crystallizing of ore. A copy and paste and placing down everything, and done. Now, a minor detour to, I forgot what I was doing here exactly. I believe I was double checking my math because the spreadsheet says, and I quote here, yeah, it'll work. And then just a bunch of blank cells, so my only theory is that I did the math late at night, forgot to save, and then just gave up the next morning. I didn't realize that I was actually playing the part of the underpaid foreman. So, to explain the process, froth flotation helps get rid of the impurities, with the usage of purified water. Now, we then crush that wet chunk and get 4 ores. We get 1 ore per second, our main ore, and then our 4 tertiary ores. So the ratio for it is 1, 1, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. Of course, slag comes back, which is why there was an additional 1, because it really is the 5th wheel in every recipe somehow. I will open the door to my front door and find slag. Back door, slag. My feet, slag. My eyes, you guessed it, slag. Now, we engage in a fantastical pastime of waiting, because we need land. Anyway, so I started comprehending the ore crushers. If we pre-crush the ores and then smelt them, we get more ingots, the more molten metal, alongside other metallurgic improvements. However, it's also slightly more expensive in terms of buildings both for space and materials. Now, a quick change for the 3 ores we will be processing: stirritite, sapphirite, and rubite. And now, we can see my entire plan collapse, because despite the size of the production of the ores, the actual processing is ridiculously small, and thus I am off kilter with my design, and I quickly fall back to the bad habit of spaghetti. Do not think for a second that just because it is straight, that it looks good. The map view still aggravates me. But this entire setup is so long, so let's just skip... Wait a minute, fools, what is this? Harnessing the power of the sun? You imbecile! We are supposed to be working on ormaturgy, not worrying about the power grid. Alright, fine. 16 megawatts. Big whoop. Back to the work site. I see you have gotten yourself excited at the prospect of more mathematical practices, Force. Please, put your uniform back on. Cognitive lapses are not tolerated, and you will still need to finish working on ormaturgy. Alright. Here's what we are working with. 9, 4.5, 4.5. Sounds like a little, but this will be the first step toward blue science, and we just need to stock up for a few specific researches. Which ones? Wouldn't you like to know, weather boy? Right, these trees are loitering. They are going down. The setup for the first flotation round. The purifying waters, or rather washing water. Alright, let's just move forward and... Forrest, please tell me we are not going to do more complicated solutions to solve a simple issue. They pay you far too much stamped, Forrest. Far too much. You know the setup? Hydrogen sulfide to kickstart the system, wastewater wash for sulfur, and purified water byproducts. Throw that into a loop and bada boom. The system will run, in theory, forever. I had some genius plan here. However, I realized I want something else here, so that plan is put back into the bookshelf. Your eyes do not deceive you. This is a 5-to-1 belt balancer. This is overkill, but who cares? Better overkill than no kill at all. Take a moment to appreciate the pipes, and try to follow the mush that is the routing. Yes, it will get significantly worse. Alright, let's flick the switch on for the first half and see if anything collapses or explodes, and the results are in. It's another pressure issue. Each of the crystallizers are finding to suck down the mineral sludge. Like the previous pressure issue for the electrolyzers, I ignored the issue at hand because it'll probably sort itself out. Drop the inserter so that they can grab the generated ore, and wow, look at the belts! They are actually feeding. Isn't nature beautiful? And a nice view of the process. Whilst small, the animation does get across the idea. At least. Though this puts into question, if we filled it with beer, what would happen? It'd probably not function, obviously. And now for something completely different, but also related. Hydrogen and chlorine, and the byproduct it produces of sodium hydroxide. Right, that. I didn't forget about that. No sir, negative, Captain. We need the sodium hydroxide for aluminum processing. But that's enough actual progression. It's time to walk right back into the delightful world of chores. That being power and the establishment of paper production. Wait, paper? Paper. I thought we were making more fertilizer and charcoal. We are, but the life of paper starts out as brown algae, and then further develops into alginic acid. Next you add a bit of water, some cellulose fibers, mix it together in a liquefier. This makes cellulose pulp. This pulp is then turned into paper, and with this, we gain access to one of the single most vital techs of the entire belt's only run. Not really, but let me have this. I also ran a belt all the way to Ore Maturgy's next incarnation. Smart design. Big, if true. Next on our list is the realization that throughout this entire process, 13 fluids was dealt with, and who knows how many products. The juggling is getting to our brave employee. Best send your wishes in the comments to boost morale. I think we might have to sedate him if all goes wrong. And of course, a small break to cool off after that big brain workout, and stare at the foundation that will soon blossom into a forest of machinery that would rival any megastructure. Alright, break's over, get back to it. The re-establishment of bronze production and cool tech. With the logistics robotics unlocked, you obviously get personal logistics. However, since this is belts only, this tab would otherwise be useless. So what gives? Simple. Trash slots. Now, the way they work is you throw in stuff you don't want, logistics bots take them away, and stash them. But since we don't have logistics bots to take them away, we got extra storage space instead. A small but very welcome improvement, because modular armor and power armor is still a bit away, and my inventory, as is in most games, a complete and utter disaster. This solves some of that issue, a stopgap. But I can carry spare blast furnaces in my back pocket, and you can't, so really, who's winning? The illogical amount of relief, cleared and finished, expansion, and what do you mean the insects have evolved to spit out deadly poisons, kinetic spines, explosive bile, and more, fours? Oh, no, we are not giving you any phosphor after the desert incident. Right, so to cool him off, we'll throw him into the algae farms and... Oh, he completed that fast and quick, and now 10 wire spooling? Fours, who are you and why are they actually working properly? Another advancement in making green and red wire. Oh no, what devious schemes are we going to use circuit logic for, fours? Are you feeling lucky? The circuit logic will be explained later. Oh look, another belt balancer. The 4-4. Hey, wait a minute. 28 charcoal per second? Too happy. Fours, get to sorting the warehouses for your habit of handcrafting. Oh, look at these fuel-burning steam generators. If only I had a smaller and more suitable solution. But oh well, I have no choice but to rely on Old Faithful. Who's the only faithful? Let's be clear. But why the steam? Simple. Carbon, for Tier 2 lead and aluminum processing. It specifically needs carbon. Ignore the gigantic charcoal bricks, apparently it's far too good for those ores. At least, the blast furnaces will have 2 different types of fuel to chew on. Don't mind me just double-checking everything and making sure we have the recipes required. Which, you know, probably a good idea to do that first thing, but better late than never. Still, this is ridiculous. All these products, all that so we can make more and more and more, and then construct the first real base, which this isn't. This is just a starter base. But don't tell fours. I'll have to do everything again, and once we get to the next progress bump, it's gonna be crazy. Carbon, done and dusted. And of course, another ridiculous requirement, that being nickel, and nickel, which will clink my head into a glass because it desires carbon monoxide in order to smelt. Now, dealing with geodes is easy. They aren't vast enough in quantity, so we crush them for stone in a different landfill. And the shiny crystal gubbin bits, and then we melt the crystals into slurry, and then wash it away. Always double check that the inserter configuration is ready and properly set. Listeners, our rates of great proportion and the key to the 18% mark of the mid-game. And with that, sadly, we must conclude, but progress, again, and remarkable at that. As always, your patronage is welcomed. Engage yourself with the resident. Buttons gifted to you, watch the series, etc., etc. Go and read Expedition Service Records Prologue. All the links to the web novel and where you can support are listed there, right in the link tree, which is in the description and channel, description. I am a very smart person and did not forget that word, even though I just said it. Alright, now scram. I have belts to line and footage to crunch.
Okay, bye.